Alright, welcome everybody to week 7, day 1. Let's see how you all did on the midterm. It's now officially too late to call an ambulance, please. Yeah. Well, now you know how to say that in Japanese. Okay. So it looks like the average is a 74. It's not bad. People that took it earlier were averaging about an 88 on it. Call an ambulance, but not for me. Yeah, it's a good one. Okay, so let's go through this. There are 2 questions on it that I would consider hard, and the rest of them I think were fairly straightforward. Okay. What theory of truth is this person using? Yeah. The notes, like I said, I wrote the midterm just straight off those notes that I gave you guys last week. So, consensus theory is a lot of times used in definitions. And sorry if my voice is kind of raw. I was outdoors all day yesterday in the ash and the smoke, building shelves. And my throat's kind of torn up as a result of it. Okay, so consensus theory is used a lot in definitions. Everybody uses consensus theory basically for definitions, almost all. There's a debate whether you should use a consensus of experts or use a consensus of people. You know, do you walk around town and ask people what yeet means and then come up with a definition once a certain critical threshold of people who think that yeet means to throw something has been reached, or do you survey physicists who have to adopt the yeet principle or whatever? So yeah, I haven't added in the extra credit yet, so all of your scores will go up a little bit. Okay, so what theory of truth is this person using? Pragmatic theory is when you don't, when you've kind of reached a point where you can kind of go either way on something. Then the pragmatic theory is like, well, just believe in the thing that is more beneficial to you, is one way of putting it. What theory? Okay. While we know that Joe Biden isn't really senile because it will benefit us politically, it is true that he's senile. And so I thought more people would get this one wrong, actually, because this would be a Republican saying this, obviously. And you're like, but Republicans can't be Marxists. But no, it worked out about the same number for all of these, actually. So, yeah, so like, if you talk to politicians in real life, you'll find out that a lot of times they don't necessarily believe the things that they're putting out there on television, things like that. They say things for a political gain. Right? So. Yeah, actually, if you love heavy metal music, you would definitely like the music from this morning. Okay. Yeah, and so in this case, they're saying, well, we know Biden isn't really senile, but because it's going to benefit us politically, it's true. Right? So, politics is like high school drama, but on the world scale. Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a certain amount of truth to that. Alright, what theory of truth is NPC2 using? Orange Man bad, NPC2, that's true. That's clearly deflationary theory. They're using true to mean agreement, right? They're just like, yeah, I agree. So, as I told you guys several times this semester, I am very aggressively politically neutral in this class. This one is kind of anti-Republican. This one obviously is anti-Democrat. So, if you're not familiar with the NPC meme, it was made to sort of mock the Democrat viewpoint. Okay. So, is this argument invalid, valid, sound invalid? So, Edgar Allan Poe wrote The Raven. That's true. The Raven is a famous poem, also true. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a famous poem. Yeah. Yep, very straightforward deduction. 16% of people overthought it, but yeah. Okay. Now this was the meanest one I put on the. This was the meanest one I put on the final because the conclusion is right, the premises are right, but the argument is invalid. What? What? If you were born, if X, then Y. If you were born before the year 2000, you will be over 21 years old. If X, then Y. Not X. Therefore Y. Not Y. Which fallacy is this? If X, then Y. Not X. Therefore not Y. What do you mean, free point? This isn't wrong. Which fallacy is this? If X then Y, not X, therefore not Y. Denying the antecedent. Yeah. This is a denying the antecedent fallacy. And I put one question on the midterm deliberately to be a little bit mean, because a lot of students think they could just look at the conclusion, look at the premises, and if all three of them are true, determine from that it is a sound argument. And the answer is no, you can't. The logic has to work. The logic has to work. You can't use an invalid form of argumentation. Do you see the pattern? Do you see how this is denying the antecedent? If X and Y, not X, therefore not Y. I did not say anything about if you were born after 10/1/2000. Okay. And you might be like, but that's how math works. Yeah, I know. That's why it's a mean problem. So, yeah. So, this is, if and only if would be one way of putting it. Then you'd be right, but yeah, this is the tricky thing. In English, we use if both for the conditional and the biconditional. Okay, and then this one, if you study hard in this class, you're guaranteed to get an A. Is this true or false? If you study hard, you're guaranteed to get an A. There's no other outcome possible. It's the kind of thing that teachers will tell you, right? But, we also lie to you guys a lot. All you need to succeed in this class is to study hard. No, it's not true. It's actually not true. It's, you could study hard in this class. Like I was telling you last time, I had a student who was normally a good student who slept through the midterm. Oops, there goes 10% of your grade. So, when you try your best but you don't succeed, yeah. Or you could just be, sometimes your best isn't good enough. Now, for this class, I don't think the difficulty level is really that high. But, yeah, you could if you study hard but don't do any of the work, then you're going to get an F. You know what I mean? So, all right. So, I gave you this one to be true. So we have a false, a true, and then the form of the argument is if X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X. Which form is this? What type of argument is this? If X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X. Which is valid, by the way. It's a valid form. Teacher, if you stay committed, you will pass. Yeah. Yeah. So, sometimes when your best just isn't good enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is modus tollens. Yeah, very good. A lot of students have trouble with this because there's like two negations. And so whenever you deal with problems like this, it's best to just like try to write down what form the argument is in. If X, then Y, not X, not Y. Ooh, fallacy. If X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X. Oh, that's modus tollens, right? Like, actually write down what the, like, defocus your eyes and just sort of don't even pay attention to what's inside of here at first. If blah, then blah. Okay, that's the X, that's the Y. Okay. And then that's not Y, and that is not X. Okay, so that is valid but not sound. Those of you that said it was sound are, believing the lies of your professors. We say that to pump you guys up, All you have to do is study hard. No, you also have to do the work. You have to take the midterms and not sleep through them. Don't die in a car accident, There's just a lot of ways you can not get an A. Okay. If you study hard in this class, you're guaranteed to get an A. Okay. And then for this one, it's just invalid. If X, then Y. Y, therefore X. This is affirming let's see. Affirming the consequent. Yeah. Yep. That's affirming the consequent, and then this one over here is denying the antecedent, right? Denying the antecedent. I might have said that backwards. I haven't had enough coffee yet. This is denying the antecedent, and this one is affirming the consequent. Both of those are invalid argumentation forms. Okay, then these are a little bit easier, because for these you don't have to evaluate the soundness, right? The soundness got some of you on this one, right? Are the premises true? They got 16 people. Okay. For this, all you have to do is determine if it's valid or not, really, by determining which form the argument has. Yeah. So this is pretty much good practice for doing these kinds of arguments. Okay. So you look at the form of the argument first. If it's invalid, you're done. It's invalid. And if it's valid, then you move on to like trying to figure out if these premises are true or not. Is the final cumulative? Yes, everything is cumulative. And there will be a lot more fallacies and a lot more of these on the second midterm as well. And we're going to be go over another social issue in computer science on Wednesday. Okay, is this MPMT? Okay, so if you do not drink water, you will die. Bob died. Therefore, Bob did not drink water. So this is affirming the consequent, right? Because if X, then Y. Y, therefore X. And Bob could have died from a gunshot wound, right? Like, the counterexamples are pretty obvious here. Right? Yeah, more practice. There will be more practice. If you listen to too much loud music, you will go deaf. Bob listened to too much loud music. Bob went deaf. This is a straight deduction. This is modus ponens. You guys are pretty well on. If you play too much League of Legends, you'll turn into a horrible person. I don't know if that's true or not, but it doesn't matter because I'm not asking you to evaluate the soundness of this. Lol. Are you guys laughing or just saying lol? I don't know. Okay. So, I am not a horrible person, although, I don't know, after the Pablo question, you might think I'm a horrible person after this one. Okay. Therefore, I did not play too much League of Legends. This is if X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X. So modus tollens. Okay. Can you see here? If you're curious what you got, I can pull it up for you. All right, I can show the answers now. I guess it doesn't hurt. Under what circumstances does your professor think it's okay to pirate software? Like I talked about on the midterm review, I actually told you guys the answer to this. So we know straight off the bat who watched the video and who did not. Right? Like I told you in the midterm review, at the very end of the midterm review, that I would put down a question on piracy. Some students suggested this be one of the answers. I'm like, all right. So 50 of you got to the end of the midterm review, and 51 did not. And then, what does that mean? 16 people didn't? How many people are in this class? 3 people did not take the midterm. So, oops. You know, sure I'll be getting like a Canvas message. I kind of forgot to take the midterm. Yeah. I'm usually pretty much a softie on most things, but yeah, forgetting to take a midterm, yeah, just suck up the loss. It's 1 letter grade. It's not the end of the world. Okay. According to your professor, there are 2 primary ethical concerns. Yeah, we talked about social issues in computer science, and these were the 2 we talked about. This is actually kind of an interesting question. You know, if you've got Cortana, you know, like Cortana from Halo, like an AI, blue, neon, woman AI thing, if you turn the power off on Cortana, are you killing her? You know? I don't know. I think there's kind of a argument to be made you are, and then resurrecting her every time you turn the power button back on. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah, so that means that 14 people took it this morning. Okay. Yeah, bad internet. Okay, makes sense. She did die. Yeah. So, yeah, 14 people took it this morning, which is, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. And bringing about the robot apocalypse like a Terminator. I don't know if you guys have seen the Terminator movies. The first Terminator was like early 80s, and then the second Terminator was like late 80s, and then they came out with some lower quality movies more recently. Terminator Dark Fate and stuff like that. But yeah, we didn't really talk about that. But I mean, I guess that could be a concern, you know? Like, the Teslas all become self-aware and form a robot union, charge you for driving you around. Talk to Cortana. Yeah. It's funny. Kind of a yikes. What was the yikes? Person making this statement probably uses switch ethical system. I think the case system in India is immoral because Guru Nanak spoke out against it. So he was the first guru of Sikhism, and so that's clearly divine command theory. So most of you guys got that. Yeah, I can't see any of the other ones being right. Basically, if you think that something's wrong because like a religious figure or God or, you know, Buddha or something like that said so, and you're like, well, you know, for various reasons, you know, you could be like, well, they know better than me, you know, I'm not as wise as Buddha or whatever, then that's divine command theory. Right? Although divine command theory is more like it's wrong because they said so. Right? Oh, as soon as I had to finish setting me up. Yeah, I have Cortana disabled. That's not easy. Like they do make it hard for you to disable Cortana on your Windows 10 systems. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The person making this statement probably uses which ethical system? Yeah. So this is a Kantian argument. Remember how we talked about the categorical imperative? So Kant believed you should act in such a way that your actions could be universal. That if everybody did it, then just think about it. Like, would the world work if which is sort of pragmatic, sort of utilitarian, but just think about what would happen if everybody behaved the way you did. And you should only take actions where everybody could behave the way you did, and the world wouldn't fall apart. No answer. Yeah, that's rough. There's no penalty for guessing. Right? So, yeah. Yep. At the end of Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, there is a radiation leak, and Spock goes into the warp core room to fix it and dies from radiation poisoning. And Kirk's like, why would you do that? Don't you know that we have red-shirted security guards to die for us instead? To which Spock says, yes, but we wore the red shirts today. No, wait, he says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And so he's making a utilitarian argument. So utilitarians are concerned about net happiness slash bodily pleasure slash all the good things in life. They're worried about the net thing for all humans, not for one person. The needs of the many do outweigh the needs of the few in utilitarianism. Okay. Yeah, so this is ethical hedonism, which is a form of utilitarianism, which is a form of consequentialism. But utilitarianism is very egalitarian. Like, no one person is prioritized over anybody else. And so Spock says, by sacrificing my life, I can save the lives of everybody on the Enterprise. And that would be a ethical hedonism argument. Okay. And that's a scene in which Spock goes blind and dies. It's super sad. It's like one of this, I don't know. It's like up there with like Violet Evergarden for like sadness levels. Yeah. Stab right in the heart. Okay. Fill out the the truth table. So pretty good on the truth table. Not X ended with Y. So I filled out most of it so you can kind of see the pattern, You start with X and Y. You start by filling out all the possibilities. And then whenever you have a new column, like in this case, not X, you look at the input column, which is X here, and you not it. So the not of true is false, the not of true is false, not of false is true, the not of false is true. And then when you AND them together, the two input columns are going to be not X and Y. And you do the AND operation. The AND operation is only true when both of them are true. So for this row, B is going to be true, and then all the others are going to be false. No answer person hit the hard deadline. Yeah, it could be. Starting at 8. It's a lot braver than I am. Okay. And then for this one, not Y is just the opposite of Y. So we have false here, so this is true, 96%. False becomes true, 92%. No answer. I mean, it's a 50-50, you know what I mean? And for the something else people, I'm sure some people put 0 or, I don't know, something. Yeah. Not necessarily false, but... And then once you get these two columns set up, then you can do an AND between them. So not X ANDed with not Y. So that's not X, that's not Y. You AND them together. False and false is false. False and true is false. False and true and false is false. And then this one is true and true is true. And yeah. So. If you want to loop forever in Scratch, use a forever loop. So that was a pretty easy question. What do you click to start running the program in Scratch? 100%. Look at that. Good. I always did this thing, though. They thought I watched Star Trek. Yeah, this thing. Yeah. This either means you watch Star Trek or you play the piano, one or the other. Okay. So, good. 100%. Okay. And then Nate Beal, who is unofficially, it's not official, is maybe possibly going to join a band called Forgotten Faces, which is a really good local Central Valley metal band. And I played their music a couple times for y'all. Not quite as good as I Have a Bad Case of Diarrhea. I Have a Bad Case of Diarrhea. Which is just one of the Chef's Kiss best music videos of all time. I did screenshot this and send it to him, of course. and he had some harsh words for he's like, failed those students. Or no, actually he said something a little bit worse for the people that put down Nickelback for him. So I'm proud of this metal name. If I ever start a metal band, it might just very well be the Darkest Prius. Nate thought Divine Command Theory was actually a pretty good name for a metal band, and I think it could. I think he's got a point there. Blight was his old band, and Rocket from the Crypt is actually not a metal band at all. Rocket from the Crypt is ska, and one of my, he wasn't a friend, but one of the people who did journalism with me joined Rocket from the Crypt. His name was Jason Crane. He was a pretty cool dude. He was, I think, 2 years older than me. Oh, he's got a Wikipedia page. That's cool. Yeah, neat. Very cool. Yeah. He did journalism with me in high school. Kind of cool. He's got a Wikipedia page now. Nice. Okay. So, yeah, he wouldn't remember me. I would highly doubt that he'd remember me. What, Sock Eaters? That's a good name. Yeah. Let me flex really quick. No, like I said, it's not like we were friends or anything. Man, who could I flex with? I got along really well with Tom Zarek from Battlestar Galactica. So Hatch, the actor, was the star of the earlier Battlestar Galactica, and yeah, we talked for quite a while. We wanted to work together, actually. So I that's one thing I can do, I guess. I used to volunteer at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, so I got to know a lot of people. Okay. So let's go back to our fallacies and keep working through it. Metal band, I am a murderer. Yeah. Weird flex, but okay. Yeah. No, he's a cool dude. Yeah, Hatch unfortunately died a couple years ago. So never actually got a chance to work with the guy. We were gonna. He was really big into character development for students, and he thought that acting was a good way of building character, which I'm not sure I agree with, but he was very passionate about that. And so what we were going to work on was putting together a program for youth, basically to do youth acting classes that had a strong character development component to it. But he died. So, kind of sad. Yeah. Okay. Metal detector. That's a good name. Yeah. For metal. Like a metal magazine, you know, discovering new groups. Right? Metal detector, I like it. Okay, so last time we talked about ad populum, which is something is true because everyone believes it to be true. Obviously, not the case. Slavery was wrong, despite most people believing it to be okay. Ad verecundium is argument from authority, and really, really appeal to improper authority is a more stronger, better way of this fallacy, because, like, if Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's an astrophysicist, said, talks about what happens if two black holes collide, like, I'm gonna believe him. You know what I mean? Because, like, I don't know what happens when black holes collide. Sorry, I just don't. I've never, I took 2 years of physics, but, like, that's way beyond my knowledge. So, it might not be true. He could be wrong, but we can always be wrong in science. So there's this. It's not really a fallacy for me to be like, yeah, I think it's true that black holes will merge or something, whatever he says, because he knows and I don't. So really what you want to look out for ad verecundium is appeal to improper authority, right? When somebody who is not an expert on the subject is speaking out of their authority, right? So, or if a paper hasn't gone through peer review, I believe that there are aliens on Europa because, and this was actually a real volcanoes. This was actually an actual presentation given in an actual physics conference. One of my friends, who unfortunately is not with us anymore because she moved away. Dr. Jenny Meyer, she's at Ole Miss now. She said she was at a physics conference and they had a crank track where people could present like crazy notions that nobody really took seriously. And so she went to one that was trying to say that the volcanoes on Europa were the result of alien activity, and she did her doctorate on Europa or something like that. So she was like actually kind of excited. She wanted to see if I don't want to misquote her, but it was like I think she wanted to see if there was like, all right, you got anything, and he didn't have anything apparently. So yeah, and that wouldn't have made it through peer review or any of that stuff. But okay. Kept hearing Kearney say "ding Europa," Europa, like Europa Universalis, one of the best games ever made, free for now on the Epic Game Store. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so equivocation. So this is a fun one. Equivocation is when you make an argument and it appears to be valid. Okay? So it appears to be valid, but it's actually invalid because you're using the words in two different meanings. That's an equivocation fallacy. So I'll give you guys two examples. First, all men are mortal. 2, women are not men. Conclusion, women are immortal. Okay, so this is equivocating on what word? What word is it using in two different contexts? Or two different meanings? Which word? Can you say the conclusion again? Therefore, women are immortal. Hold up, controversial. Men. Yeah, it's equivocating on the word man, right? And so the word man or men is oftentimes used as shorthand for human, right? And there are people that get really upset about that because they think it's gendered language when it's short for human. Mankind, right? Is, it's short for humankind, right? And in the first sentence, it's like when Socrates is man, all men are mortal. Like it's saying all humans are mortal, right? And it's not gendered. It's a non-gendered term. Mankind is non-gendered. Women are not men is using it in the gendered sense, where there's a female gender and a male gender, and they're not the same. That's premise 2. And so by using this word in two different meanings, it is an equivocation fallacy. Okay. So, men are immortal? I don't know. Like, I haven't died yet, so... So far, so good. Okay. Okay. A ham sandwich is better than nothing. Nothing is better than God. Therefore, a ham sandwich is better than God. If you follow the logic, it seems to work, right? A is better than B. Nothing is better than... B is better than C. Right? A is better than B. B is better than C. Therefore, A is better than C. Right? The form of the argument seems to work. Where is the equivocation coming in? Where is the equivocation hiding in this? If A equals B, B equals C, then A equals C. Yeah, in this case, it's a comparison, right? So it's A is greater than B, B is greater than C. So since greater than is a transitive property, A is greater than C. Yeah, the form is fine, I guess. $10 is more than $5 is more than 1, therefore $10 is more than 1. You know, the form is fine. The trouble is that they're using nothing in two different contexts here. So in this one, nothing means, well, better than nothing means, well, if you're going to get something, it's better than zero, right? But here, when it says nothing is better than God, it's saying God is the all-time greatest, right? But if you just look at the words, you know, you could be confused by this. And so equivocation fallacy comes from people, comes from people using words in a confusing fashion. Okay. And because language... Okay, so one of the really nice things about learning a foreign language is that a lot of times foreign languages will split an English word into the different components, right? The different meanings. For example, in Spanish, you've got a casual you and a formal you, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? Usted, right? And they conjugate differently, right? I'm not a Spanish speaker. My mom was a college professor that taught Spanish, so I adamantly refused to learn Spanish because I wanted to not have her like looking over my shoulder helping me with homework, you know. So I took French and Chinese and Japanese instead. But yeah, they from what I understand, they conjugate differently, right? And and that's that like helps you. Like if you were a Spanish speaker, you would probably actually be able to learn Japanese easier because Japanese conjugates on formality also. English doesn't, right? In English, we have like thee and thou, which are the casual forms of you and your, but we just always use the formal form, thee and thou, which we now consider to be formal, are actually the informal forms of those words. And yes, in Japanese, they conjugate based on formality as well. And so when you, based on your experience with languages, like it kind of shapes your perception of it, right? And Japanese people, I think, are much more aware of when somebody's speaking to you, you have to pick a formality level, right? And so they're telling you, just by conjugating their verbs, how close they think they are to you. Okay? So like if you're meeting somebody for the first time, they're going to use the words that you're at a distance, which is considered polite. If you try to be like super casual with somebody you just met, it's like, who the hell are you? Get out of here. Like, what the hell? You know, I don't know you, you know. And then, but if like somebody's trying to be your friend and you be polite with them, that's rude. So it's not polite, right? If somebody's trying to be close to you and you're using the words that you're far away from me, you're telling them to go F off, right? You know, like they keep trying to use the informal conjugation, and you keep using the formal conjugation. You're like, you're too close. Get away. And so you can actually use the polite forms to be impolite. Okay. And English is not like other languages. It's a lot like Chinese, actually. So English and Chinese, the grammar is pretty much identical, and it's weird how identical it is. Like, we have rules in English for things like adjective ordering. I don't know if you guys ever thought about this before, but like, if you have a big red round ball, you would not say it's a red round big ball, right? That just sounds weird. A round red big ball? Huh? No, in English there's a certain set of rules for ordering the adjectives. It is a big red round ball. Okay? Mandarin, the rule for that is exactly the same. It's scary. Like size, color, shape, like there's a certain ordering, and we just don't think about it. But in Mandarin, it's exactly the same. And Mandarin is honestly probably the easiest language in the world to learn for an English speaker, in my opinion. So, okay, so anyway, so language, it's actually really nice to learn foreign languages because they help you learn English as well, and they can help you pick out equivocation fallacies. For example, I actually somebody posted this fallacy again yesterday online that I was reading. And they say something like this: God can do anything because God is held to be omnipotent, right? God cannot do evil, which is omnibenevolence, right? Therefore, contradiction, right? Therefore, either God doesn't exist, or God cannot be omnipotent, or God cannot be omnibenevolent. One of those three must hold, because it's a contradiction. Premise 1 and premise 2 contradict each other. So we have to either lose the omnipotence, or we have to lose the omnibenevolence, or we just say it's a contradiction and therefore God can't exist. Very, very common argument from atheists, right? And my friend gets all hoity-toity because she can speak Mandarin. Yeah, one of the best things about... I took Mandarin for like 2-3 years. Is like, I was in Vegas and like accidentally bumped up against some Chinese people in the parking lot. I'm like, oh, it's Weibuchi. And they like stare at me like I'd grown 3 heads, and they're like, what? You speak Mandarin? And I told her in Mandarin, like, yeah, everybody in America speaks Mandarin. What are you talking about? And I just walked off, And like that, I mean, that was, the best reason to learn Mandarin right there. So, Japanese kanji is derived by Chinese characters. Yeah. Japanese was a lot easier after learning Chinese, for sure. Okay, so the anyone see the word that is equivocating here? What word has the equivocation? Do? Maybe. I was thinking the equivocation was on can, though. And so can implies capability here, right? Like, if God wanted to, he could make a platypus, right? Or heal the sick or whatever, right? So can here refers to God's capability to do any logically impossible action. Here, cannot do evil involves choice. God chooses not to do evil, right? And so in English, the word can has like a dozen different meanings, right? But in Mandarin, there's multiple meanings for can that are split out into different words. It's like permissibility, like, can I go to the store, Mom? No. Finish your homework first. That can is wrong. And then there's kuyi, which is like, can I do, I can do this. And then there's nung, and the difference between kuyi and nung has to do with like internal capability versus learned capability. Oh, there's also hui. And so the different meanings of can are split off into different words. And so once I studied Mandarin, I'm like, oh wait, that's an equivocation fallacy. And I didn't realize it because in English, our English brains, like I've talked about twice before in this class, they hide fallacies. Okay. And so in this case, can has to do with internal capability, like I can walk, right? which would be 可以, I believe. And then there's also external, like a learned capability, like I've learned to speak Mandarin, which is 会. And this one has to do with choice or permissibility. And that's a different word. And so if you translated this argument into Mandarin, it no longer works, because there would no longer be a contradiction, because they're using two different words. And that really was like, oh. So that's what my mom was always talking about. Because my mom talked about this all the time when I was a kid. She's like, you need to, if you want to learn English, you need to learn a foreign language. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, Mom. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm only going to take a foreign language just because I have to, you know. See what it is. And yeah, so yeah, now you have to know Mandarin. It's fun, and people like think you're like some sort of super genius, you know. Yeah, just taking Mandarin right now. What? Okay, well, we're out of time. Let me just sell Mandarin to you. Like, I quit doing French when the textbook for year 3 was 101 irregular French verbs. And our teacher was like, this year we're gonna memorize 101 irregular verbs. And the textbook wasn't a textbook. It was just tables of conjugation. Je, tu, il, vous. Like, that's what we're doing this year. We're just memorizing all of these exceptions to the normal rules we learned. And I was like, peace, I'm out. You know, I'm gonna go hang out with JC 2000 instead in journalism. And in Mandarin, there is no irregular verbs. There's no conjugation. Yeah, there's no tense. There's no future tense. There's no past tense. No present tense. There's no conjugation at all. I go store. I tomorrow go store. I yesterday go store. I go store buy Coke. I yesterday go store buy Coke. He yesterday go store buy Coke. We together yesterday go store buy Coke. Easy. Grammar pattern follows the same rules as English. Except English we have conjugations. Mandarin doesn't. You just write down the character. Can't conjugate a character. Actually you can. Ask the Japanese. The Japanese were like, what if we took Chinese, right? We'll take Chinese and then add conjugation to it. That was that's Japanese in a nutshell. We're going to take Japanese, the native language of Japan, and take the characters from China and mix them together into this unholy fusion that takes a language with no conjugation and adds conjugation to it. So they'll write a Chinese character, a kanji, and then write an ing, essentially, like ing, like I'm running, imas, in hiragana after it. So it's a character with an ing, and then that's Japanese. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. Take Mandarin if you want an easy language class. Tell them that Kearney said so. Nah, it's there's some tricky bits in Mandarin. The pronunciation, you have to memorize the characters and stuff like that. But it's honestly the easiest character. Like it's honestly the easiest language I've studied. Okay, so yeah, and studying foreign languages will help you with these things as well. So that's it for today. Overall, pretty good job on the final. All of your scores are going to be going up by 1 point because of the extra credit question. So check in just a few minutes and see how your scores went. All right, so thanks everybody. Thanks for coming out today, and I will see you on Wednesday.